And welcome back. I'm Mike with the Turntable Teachers, and class is officially back in session. And we are back with more Right Mind series episodes, and we got a little brand new special coming through here. We got a little mini series coming out with our good friend B-Leafs, who was our very first guest, actually. And I was just thinking about that before we hopped on, that you were the very first one on this podcast. And full circle, man, you're coming back to do a little beats with B-Leafs since you are a producer. And it's going to go pair really nicely with mixing tips with Hex. And man, I'm thrilled. And thank you so much for being here, man, and taking the time to take me through some beat making, man. Hopefully you're going to help some other people as well.
Absolutely. I appreciate you having me, man. I think it was it 1 year ago? No, was it 2 years ago? 2 years ago?
It was at least, it was almost 2 years ago now. Yes, because It was like, yeah, because it was June of 2019 is when you came on.
Oh, so like, like a year and a half.
Almost, yeah. Well, it's February. It's almost 2 years now.
Jeez.
Pretty close.
Jeez.
Time, yeah.
Time flies.
Well, because isn't it crazy? Yeah, because I've had the car for almost 2 years now.
Right.
Yeah.
That's another story.
Well, for those people that we're not going to tell the story here. We don't have the time, obviously, because we want to get to the music aspect of it. So if you want to hear that story of how B-Leafs and I rekindled our friendship, I'll call it. You definitely go check out that episode. It is like deep in the catalog, but you'll have to go to it's literally guest speaker episode number 1, and this is Beats with B-Leafs volume 1. So I guess again, go all full circle, but thrilled to have you, man. This is going to be really fun.
Absolutely.
And you're a producer, of course.
Mm-hmm.
You have a album that has been out for, I think that was when you came on the show. You were promoting your album,
2 years,
The Horizon.
To the T.
Yeah. Oh really? Oh
yeah.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yep.
Sick. And you just released a single recently, that Running, is that correct? Is that what it was called?
Yep.
And that was a good
Emily.
one.
Yep.
Big shout out to her. She did a great vocal performance on that one. And you got a project coming soon, and I'm sure we'll have you on maybe for another guest speaker episode, and you can talk about that at some point.
For sure.
But yeah, we're here, man, and he's again producer of hip hop producer specifically. He's going to take us through on how to make beats. I don't know that. That is not my strength. That is not my forte. That is certainly yours, and that is exactly why you're here today. And so, B-Leaf, so when you are making a beat, what's the very first thing you start with? What are we going to be doing today?
So for me, 90% of the time I'm starting with the drums. So I figure that's probably a good place to start for this.
Love it. So today we're gonna learn how to layer in drums, and I'm said we're ready to go whenever you are, man. You can you take us through your progression of how you lay drums on a beat.
Perfect. All right, awesome. So I have a giant folder, which takes up probably the majority of my hard drive.
I can see that.
All different samples and drum kits. So, generally, I'm going to start with the kick drum. I think, that's really the foundation for any drum loop. So, I'm going to go in here, create a new instrument track. So on the latest version of Logic, they have the Drum Machine Designer, which I really like. So we got that. And then I'm going to go in, and I like to mix different sounds from different kits. I generally don't like to really use one person's kit for all the different drums. So we'll start with some kicks. Just go through, listen to a few. These are going to be more of like a boom bap type of a vibe. I like that, so we'll drag that in. And I like to layer them, so usually 2 to 3 kicks gets it done for me. little simple kick in there. And then, let's see. I like that. Alright. So we got the kick drums. And I'm going to go fish around and find, we'll go with some snares next. So let's go to Marco Polo. Shout out Marco Polo.
Great explorer, everyone.
I like that. Usually for snares I'll do either the same snare twice to make it a little bit thicker, or I'll blend two. I don't like to go too crazy with the snares, but that's a good one, so we'll go with those two. And then I don't really go too crazy with the hi-hat, so we'll just, you know, maybe throw one in, maybe a second. DJ Payne, shout out to DJ Payne. Take a look at some hi-hats. That's a nice one. And let's see. We'll go with that one. So what I generally do is I like to kind of give it a little bit more of like a, you know, like a darker boom bap vibe a little bit. So I usually tune them down a few. And I like to, if I'm going to tune one, I like to tune them all the same way. You can kind of mess around and do different variations, but we'll say, you know, maybe -2. So we'll go down a couple on all of these, just to give it a little bit more of a grimier sound. Alright, and so then right here I'll create a new pattern for all these different ones. So, you know, kicks generally are going to be in the same spot for me almost every time. We'll do like a little bit slower of a beat. We'll go 80 beats per minute. So I can already hear on this one the high end's a little bit much, so I'm going to throw the EQ on there, take some of the highs off, which I like to do on the kicks in particular because I want to have them thump a little bit more. So we'll throw an extra one right there. We'll take some high end off that as well. And then on the snares, you know, sometimes I'll give it a little bit of a swing. So take a look here, and then, you know, it starts off at 50. So generally, if you're going to give it swing, I usually go somewhere between 50 and 60 just to move it a little bit. Nothing too crazy. You don't want it to be like way off, but I'd say like, you know, maybe 53 is probably a good little. This one has a little bit more of no, this one has a little bit more of the high end, so we're going to take a little bit of that off on this too. I'd say somewhere between, you know, normally 5 and 10 dB off the top, somewhere between like the 2K range and up generally for me on the snares. That might be a little bit too much, so we'll go, yeah, we'll take like 5 off.
I can already kind of hear that difference.
For the hi-hats, I like to keep it simple, so for those background hi-hats, like the little double one right here, generally I'm going to try to keep that one a little bit lower than the main one. It's just a little accent to kind of give it a little flavor. So I'll take a couple off of that. And we'll turn this one up a bit. So I mean, yeah, I try to keep it pretty simple for the drums. I usually don't go too crazy. Sometimes I'll play them live to get a little bit more of a organic feel, but I think, you know, a lot of that's going to come from when you're chopping the sample, how you chop the sample, and when you replay it, that's going to give you a bit more of the feel. I feel like the drums, you know, you kind of like them in like a similar pattern, especially in hip-hop. It's going to kind of usually be in this sort of pocket, I guess you would say. So, you know, once I throw the drums in there, then I'm going to start mixing them. I usually will mix the drums completely before I start to even throw the sample in there and start chopping that, just because it gives you a really good foundation. Once your drums are knocking, it's just way easier to make the beat, or make the rest of it, you know. So I usually start with a compressor. The SSL is my favorite. For the kicks, I have a favorite go-to. It's the SSL Center Classic compressor. It's just like a classic SSL, like, you know, nice little thump to it. So I'll throw that on all three of the kicks. I know a lot of people do, you know, side chain compression and, you know, routing certain drums to certain channels. I'm not that advanced yet, so we'll keep it simple for this. So you can hear there's a little bit more of a thump to the kicks. And then I'll kind of, you know, once I kind of have it going, then I'll kind of sit back a little bit, listen to the different kicks, see which one I want to come up and which ones I want to come down, because you kind of want the ones that thump a little bit more to kind of have a little bit more presence. I kind of like the grittiness to this one, so we'll put that up a couple. I liked the first one too. Although now I do need to take a little bit off of that, so we'll take, you know, 5 off of that. Maybe 10. Yeah, we'll take a little off of that. And we'll turn that up, we'll say 3. See, so now the kicks are starting to hit. As far as the snares go now, we'll take a look at some different plugins here. The Blue Ash compressor. You can already hear a little more thump. See, a little bit softer with the Titan, a little bit heavier.
Yeah, it seems like it's more drowned out when it's a little heavier, right? Like it kind of goes a little longer. Yeah, I can hear that.
Yeah, a little tighter too, with more of a thump. So throw that one on that, and then I like to play around with this Type A. It just gives it more of like a warmer, grittier sound to it sometimes. It can be a little much, but I think it's good. So we'll just put it at 10%. We'll turn the lows up a little bit. This one's nice. It's got a little bit more of a old school sound to it. So we'll throw the RC20. This has been a pretty popular plugin over the last like year or two. Gives it a little bit more of like a lo-fi sound. Bunch of different presets on this one, so I'll just kind of go through, see what sounds good. It's a lot of what it is, just playing around and experimenting until something sounds good. So it gives it a little bit more of a kind of a lo-fi-ish sound, I would say. And then we'll throw a compressor on this one as well. We'll mix it up a little bit. Even though this preset says vocals, I think that does give it a little bit more of a thump. So we'll roll with that for this. And then it kind of tells you, where you're looking in the mix. So I like to keep the snares like, somewhere between like -1 and -3. So we'll bump this up a couple. We'll put this up, we'll say -3. For me, the hats, I'm not going to do too much to them. Just throw a little compressor on and call it a day. Maybe turn it up a little bit. Master, I'll throw a lemon around just so it doesn't really start clipping. Yeah, so for the drums, that's basically it, and I don't go too crazy. I usually
awesome.
find that, drawing them in is a bit easier and just quicker, and I think you still get a great sound to it. I like to focus, less on loops when it comes to samples and instrumentals, and more on, chopping it up and replaying it, and really, that's where you create the bounce. I know, a lot of people will say, oh, you can't put the drums on the grid, but some of the greatest songs ever are drums on the grid. So it's really what you do with it, and how you really mesh everything together. So yeah, I think it sounded pretty good.
That sounds awesome. Really good. Really cool, man. I'm digging. I've been bobbing my head the whole time.
Feeling it?
Absolutely. Awesome. So the one question I had just about this, maybe some others will have too. So you say you just kind of, just more or less like something that you kind of look at from a sonic perspective of like, does it sound good or does it not? Like, you're not really shooting. Like, I know you were talking about specific numbers. Like, why why would the snares be best at like -3 in your opinion? Like what makes them at that dB like pop the most in your opinion?
I think just from over time of making beats, you kind of know that, hey, you probably need these to sit here, and then these need to be a little bit louder, because it's going to sound good when you're making it, but when you bounce the track, it's going to get compressed and it's going to sound different than what you're hearing generally. If you're bouncing it as a wave, it's going to be closer to what you're hearing here, but when it goes to become an MP3, that's when sometimes you're listening to it here and you think it sounds good, and then you put it MP3 and you realize that the snares just aren't really cutting through the mix. The kicks are a little faint. Sometimes the hi-hats can be too loud. So I think over time of just making beats, you really understand where everything, roughly where it sits. But you can tell, by your ear. You can kind of adjust it. Like, I was thinking like, hey, that third kick down, it was a little soft. I want to kind of bring that up a bit and have it sit more in the mix and give it more of a punch. Whereas like the second kick was a little bit less on the low end and more on the upper side, so I didn't want that one to sit as much as the other two. And it's just kind of it comes from experience and a lot of experimenting over time, I would say.
Cool. That's fantastic, man.
Yeah.
So we now have layered drums on our turntable teacher's beat that we're working on here. Fantastic. All right, that's laying drums on the volume 1 of this beat, and that's a great place to start, I think. So what's in store for us next time? We've layered the drums. What comes after that? Like, what would be your next thing for volume 2? What should our audience look out for?
So we'll take a look at checking out some samples, listening to those and seeing what might make a good sample, or what might sound good with those drums. And then, we can take that sample, chop it up, and lay it down over the drums. And
heck yeah,
it's looking forward to it. It's the 1-2 punch, you get the drums, you get the sample, and you call it a day.
Great. So next time on volume 2, we will chop up a sample, put the whole thing together. And then volume 3 will be kind of mixing it and getting it to sound the right way. And then we'll actually play it on an episode. I think that would be really cool, like the finished product. That'll be really awesome. So super looking forward to finishing the beat, man. But thank you so much for coming on and doing this. This has been a lot of fun for me, just to kind of like see and watch you work and things like that, and pick it up for someone that is a music head but has no idea how to make music. So I'm sure hopefully that'll be helpful for anybody that's an intermediate or beginner. Make sure you guys check out the next couple of volumes in Beats with B-Leafs. We also have mixing tips with Hex. We have 2 volumes of that already out. We get a 3rd and probably a 4th coming very, very soon with him. So make sure you stay tuned for that. And hit up our website, www.turntableteachers.com. Click the Right Mind tab up there. We'll give you like a little screen recording of that as well on where to go. And we have plenty of resources there for you guys with our Right Mind affiliates. Plenty of music resources for you guys. Anyone that is looking to hone in on their craft or get better at making music, we want to provide as much resources as we can. We, of course, are the Turntable Teachers, but I can't do it without my my lovely associates like B-Leafs, Hex, J Faith, and the team. So anyways, so make sure you guys go to our website, check out those resources. They're there for you for free. So use them up, and we'll be back very soon with chopping up a sample with B-Leafs. So thanks so much for volume 1, man. This was a lot of fun, and can't wait for volume 2.
Appreciate you having me, man. This was awesome. And yeah, I'm excited for the next one.
Me too. I'm really looking forward to seeing how this beat ends up. So it's gonna be awesome. But I'm Mike. This is B-Leafs with the Turntable Teachers, the Right Mind series, and class is officially dismissed. Turn